"Buy one, get one free," the seller shouted. No one in Dry Creek felt like laughing. Dust drifted under the noon sun. Horses stamped and snorted beside the wooden pens. The town's small market street smelled of sweat, leather, and hot sand. Men gathered in a rough half-circle, hats low, eyes cold or curious. On a raised wagon stood two Apache women, bound at the wrists with rope. Their dark hair was tangled, but their backs were straight. One was older, maybe 25. The other was younger, a teenager. Both stared past the crowd toward the far blue line of the mountains. At the edge of the crowd, a tall cowboy watched. His name was Elias Kane. His coat was plain. His hat was dusty, but his gaze was sharp, like a hawk over open range. He turned a small silver bracelet in his fingers. It had a single turquoise stone. Old Navajo work, a gift from a friend buried long ago on a high ridge. The metal felt cool, even in the heat. "Slaves!" muttered a man beside him. "World keeps getting cheaper," Elias's jaw tightened. "They ain't cattle," he said quietly. The seller, a red-faced man with a sunburned neck, spread his arms wide. "Gentlemen, times are hard, and wars make orphans. The law looks the other way. You can give these two a better life." He almost choked on the word better. The crowd shifted, boots crunching on dry boards. Some men laughed. Others looked away, pretending they were only there for salt and beans. The sheriff leaned against a post near the saloon, arms folded, eyes unreadable beneath his brim. The older Apache woman lifted her chin. Her wrists were tied, but her pride was not. She swept the men with her gaze one by one. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm. "My name is Nala," she said in accented but clear English. "My sister is Taya. A man does not own the sky, the wind." "Or us," the seller shoved her shoulder. "You speak when spoken to." Elias took one slow step forward, then another. The sun burned on his neck. Wind tugged at his coat. Somewhere down the street, a blacksmith's hammer rang, steady as a heartbeat. "Price starts low today," the seller sang. "War discount. Buy one, get her sister free. No one bid. Not yet." The words hung ugly in the heat. Elias slipped the bracelet into his pocket. He thought about the friend who had given it to him. A man who once said, "You can't ride past wrong forever, Eli. One day it rides you down." He took off his hat and wiped his forehead. His voice came out steady. "I'll buy them," he said, heads turned. The sheriff straightened. A dog barked and then went quiet. The seller grinned, showing cracked yellow teeth. "Now we're talking." "Which one, cowboy?" "The older one's stronger. The young one, well..." "She'll grow into both," Elias cut in. "I buy both, together." Murmurs drifted through the crowd like smoke. A rancher whispered, "Fool will ruin himself over two wildcats," another said, "Might be trouble with the army." Or their tribe. Nala studied Elias, eyes narrow. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you spend money on two strangers?" Elias met her gaze. "Because you shouldn't be on a wagon," he answered. "You should be walking on your own ground. Where you choose." The seller slapped the side of a crate. "Fine, fine. Money first. Then they're yours. No refunds if they run, get shot or get taken back by their people. Business is business." Elias pulled a worn leather pouch from his coat. Years of cattle work, trail rides, and long winters spilled out in silver coins. He counted them slow, his voice low but clear. The circle of men watched the pile grow. When he finished, his hand looked empty. But his eyes did not. The seller scooped up the money with greedy fingers. "Deal done. Untie them, boys." Two helpers moved in, knives flashing, not at flesh, but at rope. The cords dropped. Red marks ringed the women's wrists. Taya rubbed her skin, wincing, but stood close to her sister. The sheriff stepped away from the post. "You know what you're doing, Kane?" he asked. "You just bought more than two people. You bought trouble." "Army doesn't like loose threads." Elias put his hat back on. "Truth is to be seen, not run," he said. "If the army comes asking, you know where to find me." He turned to Nala and Taya. He moved slow, hands visible, like approaching a spooked horse. From his pocket, he drew the silver bracelet. The turquoise stone caught a thin line of light. He held it out. "This belonged to a friend," he said softly. "He once helped me when I was the one tied. I'm not buying you. I'm just opening a gate. You walk through it how you like. Nala looked at the bracelet, then at Elias. The street, the dust, the faces, the heat, everything went quiet for a moment. She did not kneel. She did not bow. She simply extended her hand. He placed the bracelet in her palm. We will walk, she said. But we will choose where, Elias nodded. The wind carried the faint smell of wood smoke from some distant camp. A bell rang once inside the small church up the hill. Behind them, the seller was already calling for the next trade. But the story had shifted. 3 figures stepped off the wagon and into the blinding street. A cowboy who had paid too much. 2 sisters who refused to be less than free. Curiosity followed them like a second shadow. They're free now, Elias said. The word felt smaller than the road ahead. Afternoon light stretched long over Dry Creek as they left the market street. The sun slid west, turning dust into soft gold. The crowd behind them broke apart, like nothing strange had happened at all. The sheriff walked beside Elias for a few steps. Spurs clicked on the wooden boards. Horses shifted in the hitching rail, leather creaking. You taking them to your cabin? The sheriff asked. For now, Elias replied. Got spare bunks? Got water. Nala walked on the other side of Elias. Taya stayed close to her sister, eyes jumping from building to building. The saloon doors swung open as they passed, letting out piano notes and loud laughter. A man in a stained vest stared too long at the 2 women. Nala stared right back until he looked away. Truth is to be seen, not run, she murmured in her own tongue. Then in English, your town is loud. Elias almost smiled. Too loud and too small, he said. Best part is the trail leaving it. At the livery, he saddled his mare, a grey Mustang with calm eyes. He borrowed a sorrel gelding from the owner and a sturdy mule with long ears and a patient face. The air inside smelled of hay, horses, and old wood. You can ride? Elias asked Nala. We were riding when most of your people were still learning to point their guns straight, she answered quietly. He nodded once. Respect, not challenge. He helped Taya onto the mule, then handed Nala the reins of the sorrel. For a moment his hand brushed hers. Her fingers were rough, used to work and rope, not silk. They rode out of Dry Creek at an easy walk. Behind them the church bell rang again, soft and distant. Ahead, the land opened into low hills, scattered pines, and the long grey ribbon of a dry riverbed. The sky was big and clean, a clear western blue that made a man feel both small and possible. For a while nobody spoke. Only the creak of saddle leather, the clop of hooves, the whisper of wind over the grass. A hawk turned lazy circles high overhead. Taya broke the silence first. Will soldiers come? She asked. The bluecoats? Maybe, Elias said. He did not lie. Maybe not. The treaty talk went quiet last winter. Folks like that seller think quiet means open season. Nala's voice cut in, steady. We were taken from a mission house. A priest was teaching us English, hymns, numbers. He said the world was changing. He said we had to learn both sides of it. Did that seller take you from there? Elias asked. Her jaw hardened. Men like him come to the edges. They trade, they drink, they talk sweet to priests about protection. Then one night, they leave with more than they came for. They crossed a shallow creek, hooves splashing. The water was cold and clear, a thin silver snake cutting through the dirt. Elias watched it slide past rocks, never stopping, never arguing. That mission still standing? He asked. I don't know, Nala said. The last thing I saw was its cross getting smaller behind a wagon. He thought about the bracelet. About his friend on that high ridge, years ago, dying slow from a bullet fired by scared men. Men who never knew his name, only his face and his tribe. We'll talk to the sheriff, Elias said finally. We'll put this in front of a judge. In law won't fix everything, but it can shine a lantern. Sometimes that's enough to scare the rats. Taya looked at him with wide, doubtful eyes. Law? She whispered. Law sold us today, Elias breathed out. The trail bent toward a line of cottonwoods. Their leaves shimmered in the breeze, pale green turning silver, silver turning green again. Some men twist the law like wire, he said. Some try to straighten it. I'm no preacher. But I can stand in a room and speak plain. That's something. They reached his small homestead near sunset. A simple log cabin, a lean-to for wood, a stone fire ring out front, Smoke from an earlier fire still scented the air, mixed with the faint sweetness of sagebrush. Elias swung down from his saddle. "You're not prisoners here," he said. "You're guests. There's a pump for water. Cornbread inside. In bunks with real blankets." Nala dismounted without waiting for his hand. She walked a slow circle, studying the cabin, the hills, the way out. The bracelet on her wrist caught the last light of the day, the turquoise glowing like a tiny trapped sky. "You say we are free," she said. "Freedom with walls is still a kind of corral." Elias nodded. "You're right," he answered. "So tomorrow we ride into town together. We talk to the sheriff. We talk to the judge. You tell what happened." In front of everyone, Neela's eyes narrowed. "You want us to trust your court?" "I want the town to hear your voice," he replied. "If truth stays only in the hills, liars own the street." The wind shifted, bringing the smell of pine from the higher slope. For the first time that day, Taya's shoulders loosened a little. She watched a rabbit hop near the garden fence and almost smiled. Hope was thin, fragile as old paper, but it was there, fluttering in the cooling air like the last light over the prairie. Truth walks slow, Elias said. Nala wondered if it ever reached the place it needed to. Morning came quiet and pale. A thin veil of mist clung to the grass around the cabin. Birds moved in the branches above, sending down soft rustles that felt gentler than any human voice. A cold breeze slid down from the foothills, carrying pine and the faint, sharp scent of snow. Inside the small cabin, the fire had burned down to warm embers. Elias poured water into a tin pot and set it on the stove. The metal hissed. Taya sat wrapped in a blanket, sleepy-eyed but calmer than yesterday. Nala stood near the window, watching the trail that led back toward Dry Creek. She spoke without turning. "You think this judge will listen?" "He's fair when he can be," Elias answered. "Rough when he needs to be. He's seen men cheat, lie, steal cattle, break treaties, and burn barns. But he's not blind, and he's not bought." Nala touched the silver bracelet, turning it once around her wrist. The turquoise stone gleamed even in the dim firelight. "The man who gave you this," she asked softly, "was he Apache?" Elias nodded. "Mescalero. Quiet fellow. Smart with horses. Saved my life once." Nala studied him now, finally turning from the window. "Your friend is dead, yet his gift still travels. That means something." Elias set the tin cups down on the table. "Means a truth can outlive the man carrying it." Taya sipped warm water. Her voice was small. "I dreamed soldiers came last night. They pulled us off the mule." Nala knelt beside her sister. "Dreams warn," she said gently. "But they don't decide." Outside the wind rose. A shutter thumped softly against the wooden frame. Elias looked out through the small window at the pale sky. "We ride in 1 hour." The trail back to Dry Creek was quiet. Saddle leather creaked. Hoofs thudded softly in damp soil. The sun climbed slow, turning the mist golden before burning it off. A pair of deer watched from a stand of aspens. A distant hammer rang from a blacksmith shop, steady as a heartbeat. The town grew clearer. Smoke from cook fires drifted above rooftops. A wagon rattled past the edge of the road, loaded with sacks of flour. Dogs barked. A child laughed. Life moved on, unaware of the storm walking toward it. At the sheriff's office, Sheriff Harland waited at the door, thumbs hooked in his belt. His hat cast a long shadow across his eyes. "You came back," he said. "We said we would," Elias replied. Harland looked at the sisters. No judgment. No surprise. Just the weight of a man who had seen too much and wished he could unsee half of it. "You ready to speak?" He asked Nala. "I speak every day," she said. "Today you listen." Harland opened the door. "Judge is inside. Let's get this done." The office was small. A single desk. A flag on the wall. A map of New Mexico territory, edges curling. Judge Callow sat behind the desk, round glasses perched low on his nose. His hair was grey, but his hands were steady as stone. Elias stood behind Nala and Taya as they sat. The room smelled of ink, paper, and old wood. Callow studied the women. "You were taken from a mission house?" he asked. "Yes," Nala answered. Her voice was steady, clear. "We were learning, helping. No one sold us. No one owned us," Taya added in a trembling whisper. They tied us. They hit the priest. They said we talked too much, Callow's jaw tightened. And the cellar yesterday. Nala met the judge's eyes with sharp calm. He laughed when he took us. He said people only see shadows when gold is on the table. A long silence filled the room. Elias could hear the wind rattling the shutters. The sheriff shifted his boots. A horse snorted outside. Callow finally spoke. These charges are serious. Kidnapping, assault, illegal sale of persons. He removed his glasses. The law will consider this carefully. Nala leaned forward slightly. Not carefully, she said. Honestly, Callow nodded. Honestly, he agreed. Elias felt something settle inside him. Not victory, not safety, just the sense that the first stone had been placed on the right path. As they stepped outside, the clouds had thickened. The day dimmed to a soft grey. A storm might be coming, or maybe just rain. Taya tugged gently on Elias's sleeve. Is it enough? She asked. He looked at her with tired but steady eyes. Truth moves slow, he said. But today it moved. Behind them, Nala touched the bracelet again. The stone looked darker under the clouded sky, but still bright enough to be seen. Truth is to be seen, not run, she whispered. They walked back toward the horses, steps quiet on the dirt road. For the first time, hope felt less like a dream and more like something that could be held. Storms don't ask permission, Harland warned. Nala felt danger before thunder ever spoke. Late afternoon settled over Dry Creek like a slow-turning wheel. The sky dimmed to bruised grey, heavy with the weight of coming rain. A cold wind carried the smell of iron and wet earth. Horses stamped nervously outside the sheriff's office, sensing what humans sometimes refuse to. Elias walked with Nala and Taya toward the hitching rail. Their steps were quiet. Their breath showed faint in the cooling air. The clouds hung low, stretching over the ridge like a giant dark blanket. We should ride back before the storm hits, Elias said. Wind's turning mean, but Harland stepped out of his office. His boots slammed the porch hard enough to echo. His eyes, sharp beneath his brim, scanned the street. Hold up, he said. Trouble just rode in. 3 men came down the main road, riding fast, mud flying from their horses' hooves. One wore a blue military coat. One carried a rifle too casually. And the third, thin, red-faced, with a crooked grin, was the seller from yesterday. Taya stiffened. Nala's hand slid instinctively to her sister's shoulder. Elias stepped forward. He did not reach for his gun. He didn't need to. The steadiness in his stance said enough. The seller slid off his horse, spit in the dirt, and grinned. Afternoon, folks. Heard there's been some confusion. Thought I'd clear it up. Harlan's jaw locked. Keep your tongue straight, Huxley. Judge already heard the statement? That silly little talk? Huxley laughed. 2 wild Apache girls cry a sad story and suddenly I'm the villain? Sheriff? I'm the one who found them wandering the desert. I was helping. Nala took one slow step forward. Her voice was low, steady as a drawn bowstring. You tied us. You hit the priest. You sold us. Huxley's grin twitched. Girl, you talk like you think anyone believes you. The soldier dismounted next. His uniform was dirty, buttons tarnished. He looked tired, annoyed, not cruel, until he opened his mouth. Orders say you bring the women back, he told Harland. The army doesn't want trouble with the mission. Or with their tribe. They belong under supervision. They belong to nobody, Elias said. The soldier looked him up and down. Not what the papers say. Elias didn't wink, didn't smile. Papers burn. Huxley's grin widened. See, he bought them. He knows their property. The town had gone quiet. People filled doorways. Boots stopped mid-step. A poker game inside the saloon froze as men leaned toward the open doors, listening. Harlan took one slow step forward. Judge Callow already filed the complaint. Kidnapping, illegal sale, assault. These women are witnesses under protection. The soldier's hand slid to the butt of his pistol. Sheriff, I have orders. And I have the law, Harland growled. If you draw, this street turns into a graveyard. Wind whipped through the street, lifting dust like thin smoke. Thunder rumbled far above the ridge. A tumbleweed rolled across the ground, tumbling right between the 2 sides like it had better places to be. Nala looked the soldier straight in the eyes. Bring your orders to the priest, she said. Let him speak. He's missing, the soldier snapped. Gone, vanished, Nala's breath hitched. Taya's eyes watered. Elias felt the answer like a knife sliding between ribs. Missing, he repeated. Or quieted. Huxley smirked but didn't deny it. The danger thickened. Even the wind seemed to pause. Elias stepped past the sisters, planting himself like a fence post hammered deep into the earth. If you take them, he said quietly, you'll have to go through me. And the sheriff? And the judge. And half this town watching, Harlan didn't speak. He didn't need to. His hand drifted near his gun, thumb loose, ready. The soldier swallowed. He looked around, the staring faces, the tension, the gathering storm. He was brave, maybe, but he wasn't stupid. Finally, he backed down. Fine, he muttered. But the army will ask questions. Then send them to the courthouse, Harlan said. Huxley spat again. This isn't over. Nala lifted her chin, her bracelet shining briefly as a sliver of sun broke through the clouds. Truth is to be seen, not run, she said. You can't hide from it forever. Lightning crackled across the sky. Thunder rolled like wagon wheels. The soldier mounted up. Huxley followed, glaring long enough to promise more trouble. Once they were gone, Elias breathed, not in relief but in warning. This storm isn't just weather, he said. Nala nodded. I know. The first cold drop of rain struck the dirt at their feet. Justice doesn't shout, Judge Callow said. It waits, and makes every man hear himself. Night washed over Dry Creek like ink poured slow over the world. Rain hammered the rooftops, bouncing off barrels, boards, and worn saddles left under eaves. Lightning lit the sky in quick, violent flashes, turning the town silver-white for a heartbeat at a time. Thunder rolled across the valley, shaking window frames and rattling loose nails. Inside the courthouse, lanterns burned warm and steady. Shadows stretched long on the wooden floor. The storm outside made the room feel smaller, safer, more honest. Elias, Nala, and Taya sat on one bench. Sheriff Harland leaned against the wall near the door. Judge Callow paced slowly, hands clasped behind his back. They know you're in danger, the judge said quietly. That's why they moved so fast. They want the sisters silenced before the case grows roots. Nala touched the silver bracelet. The turquoise caught lantern light, glowing like a small promise. We are not silent, she said. Not today. Not again! Taya curled up beside her sister, trembling from cold and fear. Elias draped his coat over her shoulders. The girl looked up at him with tired eyes. You said truth moves slow, Taya whispered. But the men who hurt us move fast. Fast things break easier, Elias replied. Slow things endure. Harland listened to the storm. The wind moaned through the cracks, carrying dirt and water. We'll get testimony in writing tonight, he said. If anything happens tomorrow, the lawyer from Santa Fe will still have it. Judge Callow nodded. I brought papers, and witnesses are allowed to speak in their own language if it helps clarity. That made Nala exhale, maybe the first easy breath since the mission. Callow set out ink, quills, clean sheets. Tell it all, he said. Plain, straight, as you lived it, Nala began. Her voice was steady, slow, clear. She spoke of the priest who taught them English, hymns, and numbers. She spoke of the night Huxley and his men arrived with lies about protection. She told how they tied the priest and carried the sisters out, like sacks of grain. She described the wagon, the blows, the desert, the cracked lips, the days without shade. She spoke of fear, but she refused to speak as a victim. Elias stood behind her the whole time, listening, learning. The storm quieted as she spoke, almost as if the sky itself waited for her story. When she finished, Taya added small details. The song the priest sang before they took him. The pattern on the blanket she dropped on the road. The way Huxley laughed when she cried. By the time they were done, the courthouse felt heavier. Callow put down his quill. This is enough to hold Huxley and start formal charges, he said. But tomorrow we need you to speak in front of the whole town, public, open, with the accused present. Nala nodded. Truth is to be seen, not run, the judge smiled faintly. You say that like a prayer. It is, she replied. A soft knock came at the door. Everyone stiffened. Harlan drew his gun. The wind howled again. Relax, came a voice. It's just me. The door opened. A woman entered. Grey dress, shawl around her shoulders, eyes sharp and kind. Miss Hanover, the school teacher. She carried a warm pot wrapped in cloth. Thought you all might need this, she said. Storms mean, but stew stays hot. She set the pot on the table, looked at the sisters, and her gaze softened with a respect deeper than pity. You're safe here, she said. Tomorrow the whole town will hear you. Nala lowered her head in gratitude. Taya whispered, thank you. After stew, Harlan dozed in his chair, boots crossed. Callow wrote out copies of the testimony. Miss Hanover hummed a hymn the priest might have known. Elias stepped outside for a moment. The rain had slowed to a soft patter. The street glistened under lanterns. The world smelled of wet earth, drenched pine, and the clean promise that storms leave behind. He looked up at the courthouse window, where silhouettes moved. Two sisters who refused to bow. A town deciding what kind of place it would be. Invite without guns, but with truth sharper than any blade. He whispered to himself, let tomorrow be enough. When he stepped back inside, Nala looked at him. The turquoise bracelet shone on her wrist, bright as a small, stubborn star. Tomorrow, she said quietly, we speak. And they hear, Elias nodded. The storm outside eased to silence. It was time for justice to wake. Peace comes quiet, Elias said. Nala wondered if quiet meant safety, or simply the space before truth finished echoing. Dawn rose pale and clean over Dry Creek. The storm had washed the town, leaving the wooden roofs dark and the dust pressed flat. Puddles glimmered like scraps of broken mirror. The air carried the sharp scent of wet sagebrush, cool and refreshing, as if the world had been set right during the night. People gathered near the courthouse, their boots thudding softly on damp earth. A few men leaned on hitching posts. Women whispered with arms folded tight. Horses shook rein from their manes. The whole town felt like it had woken early, not out of routine, but out of duty. Elias, Nala, and Taya approached slowly. Nala walked tall. Taya stayed close, fingers curled lightly in her sister's sleeve. The silver bracelet flashed as sunlight began to spread across the square. Sheriff Harland led them up the courthouse steps. Inside, it was quiet. Judge Callow sat behind his desk, spectacles gleaming. Huxley was there too, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes burning with the arrogance of a man who thought the world existed to shield him. The soldier stood beside him, shifting uncomfortably. Callow tapped his papers. We begin, he said. Nala stepped forward. No tremble, no fear. The hush in the room deepened. You took us from the mission, she said. But today we walk in by choice. This time our story is ours. Not yours. Her words hung clean in the air. Taya followed. We were not wandering. We were learning. He took us because he thought no one would ask questions. Callow nodded. Their written testimony is filed. Today is for the town to hear, Huxley scoffed. Lies, both of them. They'll say anything to make me look like a monster. Nala faced him. Her voice was calm as morning light. A monster does not need help to look like one. A ripple of whispers spread through the seats. Then Miss Hanover stood. She'd come quietly, but now her voice was firm. Judge, I visited that mission 3 times last year. These girls were there, learning, not lost. Not wandering. Father Miguel wrote me letters about them. Fine letters. She held up 2 folded pieces of paper. I kept them. Huxley's face paled. Callow unfolded the letters. The priest's handwriting was neat, warm, real. The girls learn faster each week. They ask questions boldly. Taya laughs when she gets her numbers right. Nala corrects my English. Good girls, brave, valuable in the way people should be valued. The courtroom went silent. Even the soldier lowered his eyes. Callow set the letters down. This confirms their story. Huxley spat. You can't prove I hit the priest. Callow straightened. But we can prove you transported them across county lines without order or witness. You sold them in public. That alone carries prison. A murmur spread, this time full of approval. Harlan stepped forward. Huxley, you're under arrest. The seller lunged for the door, but Elias moved first. One calm step. One hand on Huxley's shoulder. No violence. Just immovable resolve. Don't, Elias said quietly. Huxley froze. His fight died right there. Harland cuffed him. The soldier didn't interfere. He simply walked out into the sunlight, ashamed of the uniform he wore. When the door closed behind them, the room exhaled. Relief moved like soft wind through the benches. Callow looked at the sisters. The mission will be contacted. The nearest guardian from your people will be notified. You'll stay in Dry Creek as free women under court protection until then. Taya's shoulders loosened. Nala bowed her head, not in submission but in respect. Thank you, she said. Truth is to be seen, not run. Outside the town had gathered to hear the verdict. When Elias, Nala, and Taya stepped onto the courthouse steps, sunlight finally broke fully across the sky. A clean beam landed on the silver bracelet, lighting the turquoise stone until it glowed like a small sky of its own. Nala touched it gently. Your friend, she said to Elias. He gave you truth that walked far. Today it walked farther, Elias nodded. He'd be proud. They walked past the square, toward the open road. The air smelled of fresh rain, pine, and quiet hope. The town no longer stared out of suspicion, but out of something like respect. Taya tugged Elias's sleeve softly. Are we safe now? Safe enough to start again, he said. They stopped near the cottonwoods. Light filtered between the green leaves, dancing over the earth. Nala looked at the horizon. Where we go next, she said, we choose. Elias smiled faintly. Then the roads open. A breeze rustled the trees, soft as a whisper. A good whisper. A Wild West whisper. The long night was over.